The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys! This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Invisalign, trusted by over 500 NFL players for their winning smiles. And broadcasting live from Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star. Now, your host, Nicole Hutchison.
Just kidding. Nicole is off today. I am Jess Navarez here alongside Christy Scales. Aisha Morrison will be joining us in just a minute. But welcome to Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Invisalign. Christy, the winning smiles. I love that.
That's it. I love it. And kind of smile, kind of like side-eye as to what happened with Nick Sirianni today in Philly at his press conference.
You know what? We're going to jump right into it because a side-eye, indeed, all of us kind of stopped. I know we're scrolling through Twitter, and then that weird, very suspicious video of Nick Sirianni that everybody is talking about right now. Pretty much what happened is if you go to yesterday's injury report for the Eagles, they have a laundry list of people that were listed on there, one of which was quarterback Jalen Hurts, who was listed as being an NIR, non-injury related rest day. He was limited on Wednesday, a full participant on Thursday. Okay. However, when Sirianni was asked about it during the press conference, I have a little dialogue here. The question was, we haven't seen Jalen be held back for load management before. What was behind that on Wednesday? Sirianni's response, yeah, he was dealing with it. It was on the injury report, dealing with an ankle and, making sure we were cautious with everything. Question again, he wasn't on the injury report with an ankle. Same interviewer. I'm sorry, Jalen Hurts, it was an ankle injury? And Sirianni said, what's that? And Eagles PR jumped in to say, it was a rest. Sirianni said, yeah, it was a rest. Yeah, sorry, I thought you were talking about something else. And then the interviewer said, so is Jalen Hurts dealing with an ankle problem then? And Nick Sirianni said, no, rest. However, a couple reporters went digging into this, Christy, as obviously they should. And it does appear, we haven't gotten the injury report yet, but it does appear that Jalen Hurts could be dealing with some kind of an ankle injury that wasn't disclosed. Again, that's not confirmed or anything, but that very much could be the case that he has an ankle-related issue going on.
Yeah, I think we need to say why this is important because folks may be tuning in. It's like, so what? Rest, ankle, whatever, the guy didn't practice. Well, we need to say that what happens is teams on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Friday afternoon is the final designation going into the weekend, whether someone is a questionable or doubtful to play. But that's a league rule. You have to turn it in after practice on Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays. And a couple of reasons. Disclosure for the upcoming opponent. And also, let's be frank, it can affect betting lines too.
Yeah.
So, and the league takes it very seriously. In fact, you may recall, and I appreciate Chris Beam, producer, pointing this out, that the Falcons were fined $75,000 last year when it came to running back Bijan Robinson, who played just a couple of plays in the game, and he hadn't been designated on the injury report. And so there can be fines. It's a very serious thing for those reasons I just stated.
Absolutely. And so when I looked it up to kind of see what the fines could be, it could be up to $75,000. So I went back because Chris had mentioned it to us to kind of dig into what exactly the Falcons were fined for. In total, they were fined $75,000, and head coach at the time, Arthur Smith, was fined $25,000 for not disclosing about Bijan Robinson's illness before the game. So obviously, this could impact a game if you have an injured Jalen Hurts, but again, more so, this creates a bigger conversation of if they didn't disclose that on the injury report, like they know they should. And if you go back and watch the video, Christy, I don't know if you saw it on Twitter or not, he just looks like so suspicious. Nick Sirianni looked like he knew he did not.
The darting eyes. To say that. The darting eyes.
Yes.
Gosh, we've never been in that position, have we? Where we said something and thought, "Oopsie." The thing is, watching them last week against Jacksonville, it didn't look like Hurts was hurting.
Right.
Because in previous years, whether it was the shoulder where whether it was the knee. I mean, he's so physical with his game and so much running that you can generally tell when something's bothering him on game day, and didn't look to me in the game against Jacksonville like he was bothered. But the other thing is with resting, you have to remember that the Eagles, after they play the Cowboys this Sunday, they turn around and have the short week Thursday night football against the Commanders. So not surprised that if someone is just the slightest hint of something coming out of a game, that you might, if there were any week that you might want to rest them, it would be this one, going into 2 games in just a 5-day period. But yeah, not a good look for Sirianni.
And one of the reporters that I read their tweets and their articles today kind of mentioned that it was one of those everybody's dealing with something kind of injuries. And we are in that point of the season. Look at the Cowboys injury list of everybody has some kind of soreness or something going on. So I'm interested to see a little bit more of that. But overall, Christy, I kind of want to get your perspective on this because one of Jalen Hurts' biggest strengths as a quarterback is his mobility. If he is dealing with an ankle injury, that obviously changes a lot of scopes for, I think, how they can scheme a little bit more. Do you think that's going to impact anything, or do you think it's something that he's just dealing with? But with that short turnaround, are they going to be a little more conservative with him this week?
Possibly. That's the question. And that's why it's important that teams why they disclose these things, again, because it goes into game planning and just transparency for the upcoming opponent, because it obviously would affect how the Cowboys defense is thinking, how they may have to defend them. I think the bigger questions is with Devontae Smith and with Dallas Goedert and with A.J. Brown, his 3 big weapons in the passing attack. Goddard's missed the games, and so he's been participating this week. That'd be a big boost for them if they got their tight end back. A.J. Brown left last week's game with a knee injury, but it looks like he's going to be able to play. And then Devontae Smith, their fast guy, their deep threat, had wound up on the injury report Wednesday. I believe it was with a hamstring. So I know that you have the reports from today.
Yeah, it actually just dropped right now. So the only player listed as questionable is their linebacker. Let's see, I'm trying to zoom in on
Van
this.
Summerlin.
Yes.
He had a concussion.
Yep, dealing with a concussion, didn't participate Wednesday, limited Thursday, full participant Friday, but listed questionable for game status. That is the only person that popped up on their injury report with the designation for Friday. Other than that, on the Cowboys side of things, Christy, rolled out for this week's game, Deron Bland. Listed as questionable is Trayvon Diggs, Tyler Guyton, who's dealing with a neck/shoulder injury. Trayvon is listed as a calf/illness. They need to get their vitamin C in there. Eric Kendricks dealing with a shoulder injury, also listed as questionable. Micah Parsons, still that ankle, listed as questionable. Dak Prescott obviously ruled out this week. Wanye Thomas ruled out. Nick Vigil listed as questionable with the foot injury as well, which I don't think any of that is very shocking.
No surprises. Wanye Thomas had the concussion in last week's game, didn't practice all week, as you said. And Vigil, backup linebacker, but a key special teams guy. Really, the past 3 weeks, he hadn't practiced during the week, but has been able to play in the game. But the big news is with Micah, it's looking like finally he can return, because he's been sidelined since that win over the Giants. And then Zach Martin, I think there could be a couple of guys. I'll tell you that Trayvon Diggs last week with a calf injury, that pregame warm-up when the position group coaches are out there, I mean, like Al Harris was out there the whole time, Cannon Matthews, who also works with the secondary. Trayvon did a very extensive pregame workout and was out there earlier than he would normally be.
Yeah.
And so they were it really was a game time thing with Trayvon last week. And I wouldn't be surprised if it were the case on Sunday. But that's why when Mike McCarthy says, hey, the walkthrough Friday, but it's really Saturday, are they able to get out there? If they're taking part in the walkthrough on Saturday, that generally means that it looks good for Sunday.
Yeah. And speaking of things pointing in the right direction, it sounded like Mike McCarthy was really hopeful for a Micah Parsons return this week, saying, I'm hoping and anticipating with full practice tomorrow he'll be ready to go for Sunday. He also talked about Tyler Guyton, saying that he's very limited and he's fighting through it. He took minimal reps today. So
Yeah,
Man.
that happened in the first half. It's like with a shoulder strain and neck.
Yeah.
And I could see late in the second quarter, the Cowboys bench area, the offensive line sits way on the left side of the bench, furthest left. And so Guyton, as the left tackle, sits way on the edge of the bench. So literally just a few feet away from Chris Beam and I, where we're on the sideline. And I could see the athletic trainers applying the balm, like the heat balm, the rubbing stuff there along his shoulder and his neck. And that was in the second quarter. And then he missed the first series of the third quarter. Awesome Richards came in and took his spot, but Guyton came back and was able to finish the game. So the thing about that is that's kind of like Kendricks with the shoulder and everything else.
Yeah.
Zach Martin, it's not going to be better. That's just something that they're going to have to play with because they've already had their bye. You're coming up. You're just a few weeks away from the short turnarounds with the Thanksgiving Day game and things like that. Yeah. So you just feel bad for the guys because you can see them out there playing through these types of things. And this is just being past the bye. It's the point of the season where it's just really hard to catch a break. And so that's why the Cowboys, for so many years, going back a couple coaches, they rested a lot of these veteran players on Wednesdays. So those NIR designations, not veteran rest days or holding a guy out because they're dealing with something, that's not unusual for the Cowboys, but it just made news today with Sirianni and the Eagles because Sirianni slipped up and said ankle in regards to Jalen Hurts.
Absolutely. And so as far as Tyler Guyton potentially not playing this game, Christy, do you see them just kind of popping Austin back in? Or do you see a little shift where Tyler Smith moves to left tackle, maybe a TJ Bassett left guard situation? Where do you see that kind of arranging if he's not able to go come Sunday?
Yeah, well, when Guyton didn't play the games earlier, what was that, mid-October,
yes.
Early mid-October, then Tyler Smith got moved out from left guard to left tackle. But for the third quarter in last week's game, just that one series, it was Awesome Richards. So, Mike McCarthy was asked about Awesome Richards today and, praised his work. Still a young guy, doesn't have a lot of experience. But my guess would be that if Guyton isn't able to start, or even if he has to leave the game like he did last week, my educated guess would be that it would be Awesome Richards.
Well, that sounds awesome.
Because otherwise you're having to move two guys,
right?
Which is what they did earlier in the year when they knew that Guyton wasn't going to play.
They want to build more of that cohesion within the offensive line. Instead of having to shift two, you just kind of pop Awesome in, who, honestly, from what I saw, I'm impressed with the growth that he's had even since last year. So I'm glad to see him getting some of those reps and those game time reps, which you always talk about is so important. Something I wanted to talk about who is expected to play in this game is CeeDee Lamb. McCarthy said he had a heck of a day, but he's managing pain, and that's going to be something he's dealing with. So, Christy, do you feel like they put him on a bit of a snap count?
That's something I'll be talking to player personnel folks and stuff pregame. Poke around about that, but a lot of these times it's like a pain tolerance kind of thing, and CD showed his toughness last week. But a person can only handle so much. So I don't know the answer right now, but that's one of the big questions for pregame.
Yeah, and something that I had mentioned on Monday that I think you guys talked a little bit about yesterday. Were you on yesterday's show? No. I think the ladies here talked about yesterday was kind of these younger receivers emerging and getting an opportunity with Cooper Rush and somebody that they're used to working with, getting those second-team reps. So I wanted to ask you, Christy, who do you feel like could have their emergence or their breakout, if you will, for as long as Cooper Rush is your starting quarterback while they kind of decide what the extent or how long the extent of Dak's injury is going to keep him out?
Yeah, well, it's the Jalen Brooks and the Jalen Tolberts of the world, and even Cavante, because they get more of the work in preseason. Well, Cooper Rush didn't play preseason. Trey Lance took all the snaps in preseason, but at camp and the like. And honestly, though, once you get into regular season, Cooper Rush is playing scout team. Up until this week, with Cooper getting the first team as the starter, getting those snaps, Trey Lance finally gets a lot of work in practice because he's running the scout team. He was pretending to be Jalen Hurts this week. And so Cooper Rush, even leading up to this week, isn't throwing to the Tolberts and the Brooks and the Turpins and the CDs because he's throwing to the practice squad guys because he's simulating the quarterback of those opponents through September and October and earlier in November. So, but I think that, and I know you're a big tight end person here in Ferguson, but he's thrown for a few years now to Ferguson.
Yeah.
So I see that, yeah.
Well, Ferguson interjected when y'all were talking to him by the locker room.
Exactly.
Saying, if you see something red passing by, don't you fear. It's number 10. It's Cooper Rush. So anytime you have that camaraderie with your backup quarterback, I think it's important. And, I think a lot of people this week have been very quick to kind of talk about Cooper Rush in the sense of, oh, well, he's 5-1, and we don't know what we're getting out of him necessarily with this offense. But Christy, from what you've seen this week, especially with Cooper Rush, do you feel like he's in a good spot with those around him in the offense and the playbook?
Absolutely. I think they know exactly what they're getting with Cooper Rush. The coaches know exactly what they're getting with Cooper Rush. So I think any of the angst and anxiety comes from fans and media and not from the people inside this building.
Perfectly said. Well, in our next segment, we're going to go ahead and take our first break. We are going to talk a little bit more about a revenge game, if you will, my favorite kind of storyline here. We're also going to talk about Dak Prescott, the similarities here with the offense, and Aisha's joining us. So stick with us. We'll be right back.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the Playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
We know that juicy, cheesy, grilled to perfection burger sounds amazing, but it does sound like something is missing. Pepsi, baby! The yin to this burger's yang. Burgers and Pepsi go together like burgers and Pepsi. This perfect blending of flavors makes every bite of lettuce, every sesame seed on the bun, and every sip of that crisp, refreshing, ice-cold cola a journey to Foodtopia. Burgers, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that 6th ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
The Dickey family always mandated that the only Polish-style sausage worthy of their restaurant must have high-quality coarse ground beef and pork, rich spices, and fresh natural casings. We still serve it to this day, and it's so popular, Dickey's sausage has been named the official sausage of the Dallas Cowboys. The perfect matchup on game day. Dickey's Barbecue Pit. No one outsmokes us. Order at dickeys.com. For groups, call 866-BARBECUE.
Dibs on the ribs.
Head to AT&T Stadium to experience Rally Day presented by SeatGeek on Saturday, November 9th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Get ready to cheer on your Dallas Cowboys with tours of AT&T Stadium, autographs from the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, ticket giveaways, games, and more. Visit AT&TStadium.com/rallydays to get your tickets today for tomorrow going into the Eagles on Sunday. This is a huge weekend.
It's going to be lit
fun.
Regardless.
It really
Even
is.
The Cowboys
it really
are in
is.
this weird place. Cowboys versus Philly is always going to be a thing.
Man, and we'll get into that. We have a special segment dedicated to our demise for the Eagles. It's personal. It is personal. Welcome, Aisha. We missed you in our first segment.
Hi.
She made it, y'all. She made it.
Yes.
Real quick, since we wanted to hear from you on this, you were the one that kind of pointed out the Twitter conversation being louder and louder about Nick Sirianni's little slip-up. What do you feel about that whole situation? We kind of talked about, how there's a reason. There's rules and regulations in the NFL.
Yep.
But overall, if Jalen Hurts is dealing with an ankle injury, do you feel like that could impact how they scheme him this week, especially going on a short week since they play the Commanders on Monday the following week?
I mean, yeah.
Or Monday or Thursday?
Thursday.
Yeah.
Sorry.
When you look at, number one, just how Philly's offenses run, Jalen is very situational with his running now. I don't think that it is so heavily based on him running the ball. I think that they obviously have Saquon and him, those two paired together next to like a Derrick Henry and a Lamar, is their running goes together, and I think it opens up that offense. With Jalen, I think that he has become a far better quarterback on the move, making passes on the move, rolling to his right, rolling to his left. I wonder if that affects him there. And you mentioned the fact that, this week they're on a short week. Not only are they on a short week, they're going up against the Commanders next week. And with this being, this division kind of being in play for those guys right now and winning that division, that's a big opponent. I wonder how they, to your point, work the game plan to maybe not put so much on him. We might see heavy Saquon. Especially with the run game. I wonder if they take some of that out so you don't risk anything else happening to him going into this big divisional matchup next week. This is a big span of games
it
for
really
them,
is.
to be honest.
But I love what you say about that ankle. It's not just him running, but just on the move in the pass game, because that's a big part of his game.
Absolutely. And real quick, Aisha, didn't get to ask you this because we're going flipping offenses now. Cooper Rush has had a chance to work with a lot of these 2s and 3s, maybe even 4s. What young receiver do you feel like is going to shine the brightest, or tight end, if you want to go that way, with Cooper Rush?
I would say it would probably be Jalen Brooks. I think that he has, and then the few times we've seen him on the field this year, oddly enough, he just be making some important catches in games, coming out there cold, not playing a lot of the game besides special teams, and he'll come out there and make a couple of grabs. I think we saw that him and Cooper Rush connected during the preseason, and so I would expect maybe he would outside of that Jalen total.
Yeah, and maybe it's just me, but do y'all see a little more downfield?
Oh, I said that yesterday, I believe. I am interested in the fact that, coming into Cooper Rush's career here, a lot of people would call him, dinking, whatever. He's just very short with it. He's only hitting the intermediate parts of the field or the flats. He's trying to push the ball downfield more. He's a little more open to taking risk. And I don't know if it has anything to do with his mechanics, but I will say his balls aren't as floaty. They used to be kind of floaty coming out of his hand. I feel like he's really driving a lot stronger because he placed those two balls he threw, the one to CD and the one to Kevontae Turpin, on the money. Yeah. On the money. And he was decisive. And you also saw him kind of slip through and the footwork and stuff like that.
Yeah, you don't have to be fast. You don't have to be fast. Tom Brady was one of the greatest at avoiding, and Peyton Manning as well. Get rid of the ball. Just move enough in the pocket to buy a little bit of time. Yeah, but absolutely. Although ultimately with the downfield, I think they would like to do more, but I think it's going to depend how the pass protection holds up.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we ease our way into that a little bit, as much as you want to see it, heavy-handed, especially against this Eagles team. I think you ease your way into it. I think this game is a very much, I don't want to call it experimental game with Cooper Rush. I think that's a little dramatic, but I think it's to see how much the pass pro can help Cooper Rush more than anything else. But ladies, I know Christy over here listens to some Taylor Swift. Aisha, I've been putting you on a little bit, and there's a point to this. There's a song that she sings, and it talks about dressing for revenge. And somebody that could be dressing for revenge this week is Kellen Moore, which is a name we all know, and I'll leave it there. He talked about Cooper Rush this week, and keep in mind, Kellen Moore has worked hand-in-hand with Cooper Rush, which we'll get into if that's an advantage or disadvantage, what y'all feel on that. I want to point out, he said Coop is a really smart player. He has a great feel for the game, anticipation, vision, feel for what the defense is doing. I think he puts himself in a really good position. He can handle volume from an offensive game plan perspective. When Coop has gone in there, he's had success. It'll still be a challenge for us. So respect for Kellen Moore, because he does understand Cooper Rush's work ethic. he was his offensive coordinator. But I want to kind of transition into this conversation because within the NFL, there's ties and loops of who's worked with who and hand in hand of you've coached with this person or you've played with this person or you've worked with this person, whatever the case is. Ladies, do you feel like Kellen's history with Dallas, Chrissy, I'll lead you first in this. Talk a little bit about Kellen's history. And do you feel like that gives the Eagles the advantage in this game, a disadvantage, or it just kind of is what it is?
Advantage, of if anything. And by the way, his scouting report on Cooper Rush is basically the scouting report on Kellen Moore when he was here. Because he was the backup quarterback, remember?
Yeah.
He was the backup quarterback and an extra coach on the field, right? Mm-hmm. And, I remember when he first arrived here, Jason Garrett would call him the water boy because, he looked like one of the equipment manager interns, because he's still got that baby face. He looked like a teenager back then. But in regards to what Kellen Moore has planned going against his old team and the guys that he coached against, don't take it from me, take it from Skip Pete, who worked many years with Kellen Moore and is the former running backs coach here, saying that, oh yeah, Kellen's going to have some tricks up his sleeve. Absolutely. It's a question of, can the Cowboys do enough against the run that maybe you even force Kellen Moore to go into his bag of tricks?
Yeah, I'm not trying to what happened with the Lions was there were pieces of it that felt embarrassing with how they were doing the trick plays.
Oh yeah, that was
and stuff like
that.
It's
not. I don't mean it like that. I mean just some creative, fun gadget plays.
Once he feels comfortable in his scheme,
not to rub
players.
anything into anybody. Not trying to put salt in a wound.
I don't put it past him. The head coach is the rub it in your face type of coach.
Sirianni.
Mm-hmm. He's the barking at the fans type of coach. He's the walk into the locker room type of coach. They are. I mean, the Eagles have put together something good, and Kellen Moore has evolved in some of his play calling, some of his ideology. You can see the little growth in him, even in in-game situations this year. We can say that. So, I think that pairing that with the fact that they see that the Cowboys are in a vulnerable place, this is a tough place to be in. I don't discount the fact that maybe they want to come out and do as the Lions did and make a statement. This could be a statement game for them as they move forward and go into Washington. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I do feel like there's other stuff at play. That's just me.
I feel like when you have back-to-back division games as well, they're both must-wins.
Huge.
You know what I mean? Because those are the ones that'll come back and determine seeding. Given how the Cowboys' record is right now, it helps them out more than anything. But things can change. You still have a very long 9 weeks. Look what happened last year with them. Wheels kind of fell off during the end of the season, as we know. But a little brief history, Kellen Moore was with the Cowboys from 2015 until 2017 as a backup quarterback. There was some injuries there, practice squad, everything in between. He was the last left-handed quarterback to play in the NFL until Tua in 2020. A little fun fact there.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
and his quarterback's coach, Doug Nussmeier.
Yeah,
So the two of them were at the time, two of 43 left-handed quarterbacks in NFL history.
In 2019, he became the offensive coordinator, and obviously we know he stayed there until 2023. He was with the Chargers in 2023, now with the Eagles. So Kellen Moore knows a thing or two, and to be honest, I feel like he's trying to get on the path of a head coach at some point.
Yeah,
obviously.
Yeah. I mean, the guy's born to be a coach.
Yeah,
He's actually wicked funny. I mean, the dude, he doesn't come off like that because he comes off as kind of, oh no.
During those press conferences?
Is he like The Office funny? What type of funny?
He's like The Office funny. Okay,
I don't like The
I'll
Office.
give you the example. So he's from Washington State, but of course starred at Boise State. Mm-hmm. The man walks on water in the state of Idaho in college football, the winningest quarterback in the history of college football in terms of number of wins. And so he really is. He walks on water up there, and he still does commercials up there. He does commercials.
Wow.
And in fact,
commercials.
Oh yeah.
Send them to me, Kristen.
You can look them up.
Not me Googling them.
Any of you watching right now can go YouTube them. So it's for a car dealership up there, and they are hilarious. So there's
believe you
one
now.
where
I see it.
he walks into the advertising meeting for the dealership with a big box and dumps onto the conference room
Wow.
table all of these calendars. And the thing is, Kellen wore 11. The calendars are only 11 months. And so he takes the calendars, and as he flips open the calendars, it's him posing in all of these different things, like on a beach for the summer, and then like wearing a Christmas costume for December. The dude's actually really hilarious. You just kind of got to get to know him a little bit.
Well,
Dry sense of humor.
Here's the thing.
Office sense of humor.
Oh, I don't like The Office. That makes sense.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
sorry.
Oh,
The Office is
Them's
a giant
fighting
red
words.
flag. I'm
fighting
sorry.
words.
She's a dangerous person. I can't.
Nah, I'm on Grey's Anatomy right now. That's what I'm doing.
Can't go wrong with that.
There you go. I started from season 1, so
Yeah.
I'm on season 9, episode 15. I know, it's been a long time. Okay, getting back into gear now. You were talking about how you have to get to know Kellen. What you don't want is to get to know Kellen in this game and lose. That's what you don't want. I want to pose this question for you ladies. What have you noticed is the biggest difference in how Kellen ran the offense here compared to what you've seen from Mike McCarthy the last 2 seasons? Whoever wants to go first can take that.
The difference. Say it again.
Biggest difference in offensive scheme from Kellen to Mike?
As of like right now, I think that he's a little bit more intentional, and this is something we talk about all the time. Obviously, having that number of weapons in Philly is special, having that many guys, those many stars at those positions. However, I think that he's a little bit more intentional with the usage of what those guys do well and how they do them well. He's not asking AJ to go out and freaking run whip routes. He's putting them on slants. He's putting them on goes. He's their big play threat right now. He's allowing him to get open field. Devontae Smith, their route runner. He can be in and out of the slot. He can do pretty much everything in the intermediate game. Like, he's using them, the tight end screens with Goddard and all those things. He just uses them. Saquon as a receiver. He's having one of the best receiving years of his career after an ACL. It's just he gets, hey, you do this well. Let's see how we can integrate this. And now, obviously, the offensive line and all those things allows them to be able to do these things. But just that part of things is what stands out to me.
Yeah, and actually, that's what I was going to say. You say offensive line, I say run game.
Talk about it.
Yeah, and if Mike McCarthy had the run game in Dallas that Kellen has right now working in Philly, yeah.
He can do all of that because of the run game. You are
but the
That'd
run
be fun
but
to
the run
watch.
game does go to the point of offensive line.
Yes, ma'am.
And with the Cowboys offensive line, the pass protection is in a lot of these games is not where it needs to be.
Yeah.
And so you're not running the ball well. Your pass protection has not been reliable every game, and so I don't think we've seen what Mike McCarthy wants to do.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't had a chance.
I'll say from even when the time that Kellen, they are good in the red zone. They are very efficient in the red zone.
Yes.
To your point, and that just goes back to the run game. The threat, you have the threat of Jalen's legs, you have the threat of Saquon, and you have the threat of being able to pass that rock and really play on play action, because people are stressed out about what you can do at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
Dang, I just talked myself into getting sad.
Don't do that. I also
Barnacles.
want to point out, too, before we go to our next break, is I feel like what a quarterback-friendly offensive coordinator Kellen is for these guys. Every time you hear a player talk about Kellen that's worked with him, really talks about how Kellen has been able to connect. And I think that goes back to the conversation of having a former player in that position, knowing how to coach them from that perspective can just be so helpful for them. So I know that's something I've talked to Cooper Rush even about at some point. But real quick, Jalen Hurts, since this is according to CBS Sports, Jalen Hurts ranks since week 6. Let's see. He has 4 wins. Tied for first. Pass and rushing touchdown, he has 12. Tied for first. Pass rating, want to guess what that is?
Probably over 130.
128.8.
Oh, okay.
Third.
Easy buttons.
How many turnovers?
Oh, gosh, probably 0.
None. They're not turning
0.
the ball over right now.
None. The fewest in the NFL. So let's stew on that for a little bit. When we come back after this break, we're going to talk about the rivalry with the Eagles, some of our best stories and memories. We're also going to take a little peek across the NFC East. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
The Dickey family always mandated that the only Polish-style sausage worthy of their restaurant must have high-quality coarse ground beef and pork, rich spices, and fresh natural casings. We still serve it to this day, and it's so popular, Dickey's sausage has been named the official sausage of the Dallas Cowboys. The perfect matchup on game day. Dickey's Barbecue Pit. No one outsmokes us. Order at dickeys.com. For groups, call 866-BARBECUE.
Dibs on the ribs.
We know that juicy, cheesy, grilled to perfection burger sounds amazing, but it does sound like something is missing. Pepsi, baby. The yin to this burger's yang. Burgers and Pepsi go together like burgers and Pepsi. This perfect blending of flavors makes every bite of lettuce, every sesame seed on the bun, and every sip of that crisp, refreshing, ice-cold cola a journey to Foodtopia. Burgers, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that sixth ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the Playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
Witness the biggest boxing event in modern history at Netflix and MVP's Paul versus Tyson and Taylor versus Serrano. Head to AT&T Stadium on Friday, November 15th as international superstar Jake Paul takes on the baddest man on the planet, Mike Tyson. And don't miss Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano's long-awaited rematch for the undisputed super lightweight championship. Limited tickets are available now at SeatGeek.com, the official ticketing partner of AT&T Stadium.
How?
You ever been in a fight?
No.
I can tell by how you was doing like this.
I will say, I'm just surprised I'm ever going to admit this here on this podcast, but my family's a wrestling family. So my brother, 3-time state champion in high school.
Wow, that's really impressive.
First
state in New Mexico.
First in New Mexico.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right. So when I was little, I tried to be cool like Big Brother, and I was in wrestling for a little bit, and it was not my thing. I'll say that very quickly. I was like, I'm out.
But I'm sure you looked so cute in the leotard.
I had pink
tried.
shoes. I had pink shoes. I had pink shoes.
Well, that's just the toughness right there.
I made a boy
They were just
cry.
so intimidated.
I'm not going to lie.
Oh, you wrestled boys.
Yeah, I made him cry. I made him cry because I pinned him and embarrassed him. And anywho, we're going to move on from that. But
I wasn't expecting you. That took a turn.
That's not a fight, though. It was a sport. It was not a fight. Anywho, my parents will laugh listening to that because it was a whole thing. But
and your brother, too.
Yeah, Jimmy will be like, no, leave wrestling to me. All right, guys. So real quick, Aisha had some final thoughts about the offensive line I thought just needed to be heard on the podcast. Then we're going to go around the NFC East, and then we're going to end with the history of this rivalry.
First of all, I was just saying it off camera because I just wanted to talk about it because I talk too much sometimes. But
we love your yapping.
I was just thank you. I was just talking about the biggest difference that I've seen between Kellen Moore's play calling now, and even when he was with the Chargers. But in Kellen Moore's play calling now, in comparison to when he was here, is what we talked about earlier. It's the offensive line play and the run game. I feel like the difference between Kellen Moore's play calling right now, when you say things like QB friendly, when you look at Jalen's numbers, he's making some big plays downfield, but that offense just allows him to relax. And I don't think Dak, while Kellen was here, was one of the clear-cut differences is the lack of run game on a base level in football opens up the offense. But specifically comparing the two quarterbacks, I do think that Dak's the way that Dak had to run this offense was so contingent on him and the receivers being the best and winning and consistently winning. And when you look at what's happening in Philly now, I feel like with Jalen, he was spiraling. Like, I'm just being honest with you. Last year was one of his worst years. He got injured. He was dealing with a lot of stuff. They heavily relied on RPO. Mm-hmm. It was a lot. And I don't believe he could sustain that. His body could sustain that. And Kellen Moore coming in there has really married that run game to that passing game. And again, I just think, especially with the Dallas offensive line, this offensive line, I don't think people understand, has been in limbo since 2017. I mean, that conglomerate of offensive players, the Travis Fredericks, the Zach Martins, the Tyron Smiths, Ron Leary, like those guys, when those guys left, this offensive line has just been up and down, guys in and out, guys retiring. We lost Travis Frederick to being sick as well. And just that has affected how this offense has been run. And it's still happening. And they still have not figured out how to get this run game going. It's affected the rest of the offense. But I know that was lengthy, but I just wanted to point out, like, happy for Jalen, but I do wish that was something that Dak Prescott could experience with Kellen Moore and the evolution of his play calling. Sure. I think he could have flourished here if those tools were in place.
Well, and he was also younger back then. Kellen was learning how to be an offensive coordinator, if we call it what it is, and that takes time and adjustment and growing as a coach. And I will say I am proud of Kellen for doing the growth, just not this week. All right.
I just want him to freaking call a pass play on 3rd and 2. Oh. Like he normally does. Well, 4th and 6.
You know what else is 2?
Do it again. Do it again, Kellen.
You know what else has 2? If we're looking across the NFC East, the Commanders only have 2 losses, sitting at the top of the NFC East. Actually, at the top of the NFC division right now are the Washington Commanders.
The conference?
The whole conference.
The whole conference.
I'm about to throw up.
After that is 7-1 Lions. Keep in mind, the Commanders don't have their bye week until week 14. That's a long time without a bye week. But they're managing 7-2 right now, the Commanders, the Eagles, 6-2, Cowboys, obviously we know 3-5, and the Giants. 2-7. Okay.
Big week for the Commanders though, because they got Pittsburgh Sunday and then turn around this short week, with the Eagles.
And that's why, going back to what we were saying earlier, these next 2 weeks are pivotal for the NFC East and how it could end up shaping out when it comes to playoff contention. Because yes, the Cowboys are technically still in it. Very small chances compared to what they would have been if they won last week. But the Cowboys are still in it. Again, you have a lot of football to play. And with the Commanders, I didn't realize this. With their bye week not being until week 14, that's a long time to play. And Christy and I were talking about in the first segment, this is the time of the year where everybody's dealing with some kind of injury.
Week what?
14.
That's because they schedule.
Well.
Gotta be, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
When you get the easiest schedule, they just like, you'll be all right.
I mean, but they are playing they're playing football that I don't think anybody expected them to pick.
But
to
week
play.
14 is insane.
Yeah, that's
to
a
not
long
have
time.
a break in this league. I don't know.
That doesn't seem fair.
I don't actually.
I take
that back. That's not funny.
Crocodile tears.
It's literally until it's not until December that they get a bye week. Isn't that crazy?
I don't like that.
Yeah. Well,
and some teams have them in like week 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Week 5.
The Chiefs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, guys. So with that being said, let's go into the rivalry history this week because Cowboys are playing the Eagles. Ew. There's nothing we don't like more than the Eagles this week because, again, gross. And there's a tour out here. Do y'all hate the Eagles? Yes, he hates the Eagles.
We have one Eagles fan.
Oh, we have an Eagles fan.
You're an Eagles fan?
Gross.
Because there's one in every...
Get him out of here.
Right. They charged him double for the tour, so it worked out very well. Sir, when you get up to the atrium, sir, I want you to take a look at the 5 Super Bowl trophies because that's what 5 Super Bowl trophies look like instead of 1. So just kind of take your 1 and then multiply it by 5, and that's what it would look like.
Christy.
So, yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Christy trolling.
Well, there you go. That's how Christy feels about it.
Well, actually, my favorite personally, my favorite story, because I started in '91 with Cowboys Radio, and I think the best episode of the rivalry was back in 1989. I'll talk about that. 1889. No, 1989. But my favorite one at Philadelphia was going out in the parking lot pregame. Went extra early to go around the tailgating, and it was the game in which Terrell Owens, it was his first game back as a Cowboy playing his old team, the Eagles. And Philly is famous for bootleg T-shirts in the parking lot at their sporting events. And so there were these white T-shirts with green letters, and I actually bought a couple of them. I should have found mine and worn it today. Well, but it said you can't spell idiot without T-O, which I thought was really funny.
Oh my
But
gosh.
Yeah, very rude.
Rude.
Typically Philly.
Yeah,
but I take you to 1989. It is the first year of Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones in the NFL. It's Troy Aikman's rookie year, and the Cowboys are horrible. That's the one where they only won one game the whole year. And the Eagles are now being led by Buddy Ryan, who, the father of the great Bears defense, the 85 Bears and stuff like that. And Buddy was a curmudgeon. Buddy was prickly on the sideline. Mm-hmm. So was Jimmy Johnson. And so the Eagles are playing the Cowboys Thanksgiving Day 1989, and it's known as the Bounty Bowl because Jimmy Johnson and the Cowboys accused Buddy Ryan and the Eagles of putting a bounty, and I don't mean paper towel, I mean like bounty, like putting money on hurting kicker Luis Zendejas, who was the Cowboys kicker but had been with the Eagles, and on Troy Aikman. And the Eagles were a superior team that year. I said how horrible the Cowboys were. The final score was 27-0, but they literally went after Zendejas and hit him after a kickoff. And Jimmy was so mad after the game that this was the press conference. Jimmy says, "I have absolutely no respect for the way they played the game. I would have said something to Buddy, but he wouldn't stand on the field long enough. He'd put his big fat rear end into the dressing room."
Oh, my God.
To which they go straight to Buddy Ryan and ask Buddy what he thought about that. And Buddy says, "I resent that. I've been on a diet. I lost a couple pounds. I thought I was looking good."
Oh, my God.
So just a couple weeks later, it's a very short turnaround. The Cowboys play up in Philly on December 10th, and it's known as Bounty Bowl 2. And oh my gosh, that was dominated the news. The Cowboys got their bleep handed to them again. It was a little closer, 20-10, but that was the game where the Eagles fans were throwing stuff onto the field, snowballs and throwing at Jimmy Johnson. So you see the old highlights of him being run off the field with the security guards holding like coats over him because snowballs are being thrown from the sideline. And then one of the one of the Eagles team captains is over there in the bench area and turns to the fans and is trying to keep them from throwing snowballs, and they pelted him with one.
Oh my God.
So, anyway, a Bounty Bowl, Bounty Gate, whatever you want to call it, I promise you that if you're watching the telecast on Sunday, there'll probably be one of those bumps in or out of a commercial break where they show Buddy Ryan and Jimmy Johnson, or maybe even tease Jimmy about it in the Fox pregame.
Love
that. Bounty Bowl.
Bounty Bowl. Aisha, do you have any favorite memories?
From
games?
Philly?
Yeah.
I believe it was my first football game I ever been to. I think it was 2000. Maybe it was 2016. It was the overtime game.
Oh, that was a good one.
I was there for that.
Was a good one.
I waited on tables at Buffalo Wild Wings for a while, and I waited on a family, and they always had extra tickets, and they knew I loved the team, so they would always, invite me, and I went, and that was just the incredible, the pass to Jason Witten at the end of the game.
That was Dak and Zeke's rookie year.
Yeah, and the way that things just kind of panned out. I mean, also comes to mind that Amari Cooper freaking catch to himself. You remember?
Yep.
He had only been with the Cowboys for a couple weeks at the Philly game where he tips up in the air, he catches it.
Oh, that was after 2016.
Yeah, there's been some great battles, but that one was one of my most memorable because it was my first football game I'd ever been to.
I love that.
Very cool.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Jason Witten. I was not a football fan during this time. However, in my history of becoming a football fan, it is heavily due to Tony Romo and Jason Witten, and kind of that era of football. It's kind of what brought me into it. But 2007, Christy, do you know where I'm going with this?
Is that where he got his helmet popped off?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, there's a giant photo when the players or any of us walk into the Ford Center from the Cowboys locker room and the football ops area.
Right?
You walk under a giant photo,
the no helmet,
and it's Jason Witten running down the field with no helmet.
It was a 53-yard reception. He ran for 30 yards after his helmet was popped off, and
his nose was bleeding.
Bloody nose. I think he had a lacerated spleen in that game.
Well, no, that wasn't that game.
It wasn't that game.
Yeah, but here's the thing: the photo.
That man played through any injury.
Yeah.
That was nuts.
But you'll never see a photo like that again, because after that is when the NFL changed the rule that once a player's helmet pops off, whistle blows and the play stops. But the thing was, he caught the ball and, like I say, he ran another 30 yards after the catch, but he didn't score. He got tackled at maybe the 10-yard line or the 11-yard line.
Yeah.
And I know we got to go, but I'm going to tell the story real quickly because I've known Jason and Michelle. They were married before they even got here. You know, they're high school sweethearts, Jason and Michelle Witten. And Michelle at the time, emergency room nurse at Parkland Hospital. So that's the public hospital here in Dallas. So she's doing the gunshot wounds and the knife wounds and things like that. So they're already married. This was a night game. So we get back at 4 a.m, right? And so Jason Witten walks into his house. They're young, right? I'm not sure if they might have had one of the kids, one of the 4 then. But anyway, middle of the night, and Michelle sees her husband, who ran 30 yards down an NFL field without a helmet. And she looks at him, and she said, "What do you think that Michelle Witten, the emergency room nurse, said to Jason Witten when he got home early that morning?"
Are you dumb?
No, this is why I loved this woman. She looked at him and said, "Why didn't you score?"
Oh! Love that. Love that for her.
I was expecting
We love that for the wins.
like that.
That's hilarious.
That's a true story.
Are you okay? That's
a true
hilarious.
story.
Real quick, who gets in the end zone first during this game? Cowboys or Eagles? Go.
Saquon.
Yeah. It's Eagles.
She's
Go
so
Cowboys.
Rico Dowdle.
Okay,
Yo,
let's
I like
go.
Like it.
better support,
Go for
sister.
it. Go for it.
Unfortunately, my score prediction and my prediction last week came
How
true.
about Kevontae Turpin on a kickoff return to open the game?
All right.
He's
Christy
getting
said it first.
close.
All right, guys, we got to go.
Bye.
It is 3:52. We appreciate y'all. We will be back here next week, Monday at 4 o'clock with our regular crew. Thanks for watching. This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Invisalign. Enjoy your weekend and go Cowboys.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this,